Welcome, everybody. We're excited to be back at you for another show on the Extraordinary Entrepreneur series that we've been doing. And today we've got a great treat for you. We have been so excited about bringing this particular guest. This is somebody that we've got a long relationship with. Jeff has been connected with him for longer than I have, but I think you're going to be super impressed with what you're going to hear today. And we're really going to be focusing in on specific tactics to grow as an entrepreneur and executive. And we're going to be utilizing some special skills training from the Navy SEALs. T.C. Cummings is a best-selling author. He's a master coach, executive coach, worked with all kinds of different types of executives and business owners. He actually was the master coach for Jim Rohn International, which is a big favorite of Jeff and I. We grew up following Jim Rohn's coaching and speaking, and super excited to get a chance to hear TC's strategies and tactics on how he uses his noble warrior approach to elevate performance in teams and individuals and leaders. And so, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you and have you share a little bit about your background with TC.
Yeah, so I think TC and I met 5 years ago and just hit it off kind of business and friendship and had a lot in common. So we've enjoyed, friendship talking, a few times a year, probably been a year, TC. Since we talked, you got busy traveling, I got busy with all my stuff, but just a great all around guy and, honest with integrity. I just love when I meet people that have integrity because today it seems like it's so rare. And he spoke to some of our groups in the past, the CEO group, and everybody got a lot out of it, just bringing some of that integrity and Navy SEAL background, also being that master coach for Jim Rohn. I mean, it's just had a lot in common. So I'm enjoyed our friendship and super happy to have him on the show and just get some feedback from him. So thanks for being here, TC.
Yeah, we'd love to have you give us a little bit of your background. Obviously, you've had your Navy SEALs training, but that was a period of your life that you have really, propelled yourself forward into the corporate space of being able to work with a lot of high-level executives and really taking what you learned in that space of training and applying it into everyday civilian life. So give everybody a little background of where you've been and where you're spending most of your time.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you, Jeff. And Jeff, good to see you. I do believe last time we saw each other, you took me out for dinner in Laguna Beach.
Surf and Sands. Love that hotel. Yep. Splashes restaurant where the water splashes against the restaurant.
Right
Love
there.
that place.
I started my life in Iowa and moved into New York, Rochester, New York. My father got a job with Eastman Kodak, so I'm a Kodak baby. Eastman Kodak dominated. I mean, you got Bausch and Lomb and Kodak, and from there you have, gosh, I mean, Kodak alone had 76,000 employees in that one city, and Bausch and Lomb, IBM, Xerox, DuPont, just to name a few. Very, very, very white collar city. In fact, it boasted the highest number of PhDs per capita when I was growing up of any city in the United States. And then, like so many other people, I chose a childhood that was going to be rough and tumultuous. In my case, it was included divorce, and part of the divorce included moving to Buffalo, New York, where I lived a couple of years. Very much, that's a lot of great things about Buffalo. The big thing, though, was that Buffalo was extreme blue collar. In fact, Bethlehem Steel fell at that same time. So I went from extreme white collar to extreme blue collar. And I think it's important that the two elements make up a lot of my character. So the age of 14, I moved back with my father in Rochester and began attending an all-male Jesuit college prep school. And just 2 years after that, life at home became so dangerous that the judge literally emancipated me, said, you are now able to sign for yourself. You're able to be your own parent, your own guardian. I chose to continue going to school, the same school. My father continued paying for that school. Everything else I paid for, which meant I worked, which meant I didn't sleep and I didn't socialize.
You're talking
And
16 TC, like
yeah,
16
16 years
emancipated
old.
minor. Wow,
Yes, sir.
that's
16 years
that's
old.
amazing.
To this day, I'm the only student who's graduated from that school with a passing grade while living on his own. But not only that, I graduated in the upper echelons with all the bonuses that you could have achieved. That came from, again, a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of tough decision making. One of the blessings I got at the age of 14, I hadn't even started high school yet, and I got this opportunity to participate at a local college for teaching basically executive function, how to schedule your day, how to schedule your planning. And I was a big kid. I was like 5'7", so people just thought I was a small freshman in college. And I used those tools to navigate through the daily life and make sure I got everything done. Another thing I learned, and this didn't come from Jim Rohn to my knowledge, but I learned to journal. So, 1980, I'm journaling voraciously. And one of the things I would journal about would be lessons I was learning and how to use these on purpose in the future. That came really handy when it came to becoming an emancipated minor. And then going to school, I see that, all these guys, I went to school with the families of the most affluent, the students of the children of the most affluent families in the city. And I felt like I had more freedom than they did. My car, I forgot to mention my father gave me a car. It's falling apart. It's a big rust bucket. And I never know if it's going to start. I never know if I'm going to be able to close the door. The holes in the running boards allow the slush to come in. That being said, I remember one time, Jeff, I think I shared this with you. I'm walking up to school after parking, and another peer joins me. And he's complaining to me that he's lamenting that he had to drive the Volvo.
Mhm.
Like, I want to drive the Porsche. Life's not fair. And I'm just like, I just came home from work literally, 4 hours earlier. About 3 a.m., I got home from work. And I'm grateful that this car made it through the snow. But I recognize that his pain was real for him because in his mind, he didn't know he had choices. And so I started like really getting clear that what I'd like to do for my life is I'd like to share these choices with people. I want to be a psychologist. So I started taking psychology class, and I'm the total nerd in the front row, nodding while I'm writing, right? I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, internalizing everything the professor has to say. One day he hands out a stress test. He says, answer this, stress test to describe what life is like for you. And a scoring of 100 points or more means that you're susceptible to a heart attack. We're looking at each other. Dude, a heart attack? Like, stress must be really bad. Don't get stressed. Don't have stress. He has everybody stand up and then sit down if you have 20 points, 30 points, 50 points, 90 points. There's 3 of us left at 70 points, and 90 points, I'm the last one standing. He says, what'd you get? I said 300. Immediately, he's waving me off. Cannot be, does not compute. And out of his pie hole, he says, recheck your math. I said, I've checked it 3 times. Now he's pacing back and forth in silence, shaking his head, no, no, cannot be. And it dawned on me, I'm not in his textbook. I'm coming home between 1 and 3 a.m., depending upon which job I work at, 6 or 7 nights a week. And I've got to be at homeroom by 7:40 a.m., Monday through Friday. I don't compute. I've moved, what, 20, out of 22 months, I moved 12 times, including 1 month where I was homeless, just living in my car. And I realized I need to experience life. Instead of being book smart first, I need to go out and experience life and then learn how to articulate it. So one of the benefits, one of the things I learned as a child was on the opposite side of adversity is benefit. And like any mathematical equation, the greater the adversity, the greater the benefit. It's equal. So I proactively sought, I found this adversity, the greatest adversity I could find in the SEAL teams. The toughest training you can find in the military. Every day is harder for the basic training, the what we call BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. And we have about an 85% dropout rate of those who make it to the class. But here's the kicker, Jeff. I don't know if I've ever stressed this one with you. That's 85% quit who are 100% qualified intellectually, physically. They've been psychologically evaluated. They're committed. They've done everything, and they quit. And that's always it always fascinated me. And then watching their reaction right after I'll use this word, sober up. As soon as they become emotionally sober, there's this, oh my God, what did I do? Look about them.
Isn't it true,
But
TC, that when you go into, or the people that actually go into the Navy SEALs, I think that we're oftentimes given the impression that they're all the toughest, meanest, most, over the top type of individuals. But a lot of times what I've heard is that Navy SEALs are oftentimes not the ones that you would think are the most meanest, strongest, maddest. They're oftentimes more intellectual. They're more analytical. I mean, is that true, or is it?
yeah, you have to have a minimum amount of strength, but you can grow. You can develop strength. Myself, I could barely do the 6 minimum pull-ups when I started. I think I peaked out at like 36 pull-ups. That's not kip-ups, that's dead hang pull-ups. But when it comes to being mad or mean, those characters, they don't play well with the others, and they don't engender trust, and they're not gonna. Life is a game, a team sport, and so those mean and angry characters, they're not usually going to make it. They will weed themselves out because they will isolate themselves. I got a number of different stories in my head of watching that, seeing that happen, and you can talk to any SEAL and they'll tell you the biggest, strongest, right? I said, you can develop strength. The strongest, the biggest would usually fail, no kidding, because they were not used to failing.
Did you transfer right out of, did you go right from high school and you thought you're going to do this whole, become a psychologist or go into psychology? Did you go right into the Navy SEALs, and was it hard for you to go through that application process? I'm just curious.
It was hard in a reverse way. So yes, I went straight from high school through hospital corpsman training, a couple of months of hospital corpsman training. I'm a medic. And then I went from hospital corpsman school to BUDS, which is the basic underwater demolition SEAL training. It was hard for me because my ASVAB score, the intellectual test that we take coming into the military, I scored in the upper 99th percentile. At the time, especially, the Navy wanted more people in the nuclear program. And the challenge was you can't find enough warm bodies who qualify. So I qualify, but I'm not interested. So what they did was they backhandedly, they kept me around after I graduated from my hospital corpsman school. They let me sit for a couple, maybe 3 weeks, doing nothing. Like, why? Because they wanted me to quit. They wanted me to rebuke my orders to buds and take on these orders to go to fill their billet slot at nuke school. Same thing when I got to buds. I got to buds, I could have classed with the particular class. I had to wait for 2 more classes. That's months I had to wait. And again, it's not exciting to sit around and wait. So the whole idea was, if you just like rescind these orders, you can join us here at the nuke school and you'll feel real happy again. So that part I had to fight in order to keep those orders because they really kept trying to pull me over to the nuke school stuff.
TC,
My
I want to
father-
make sure we can get into some of your noble warrior training. So you take this, you're a Navy SEAL for a certain amount of time. Did you transition out of the SEALs and go into sales or marketing or right into coaching? And I want to make sure we get to your noble warrior training, which kind of all the CEOs you've met and teams and building the team, because I have some specific questions about that. Since the people on the call today are typically business owners with 1 to 10 million in revenue. Maybe they're making $100,000 to $2 million a year, and they're trying to scale up their business 10 times revenue. And we help them through building their sales team and doing lead generation to explode sales. So let's take your $1 million company to 10 million. Let's take your $10 million company to 100 million. And then we can either sell it and exit, or you can vacate the CEO role and you got enough money to afford to hire a CEO to daily run it so they can go sail their boat around the world or work 2 or 3 days a week. That's kind of the audience we're talking to, CEOs and business owners. So I want to make sure I get into some of the training you've done and what you've learned. But tell me, from Navy SEAL into the workforce and then became a coach, was that kind of a 10-year process? Or
Yeah, that was definitely not intentional. It was absolutely natural and organic. So at the time, I had been in the service for 8 years and I had joined purposefully. And so I separated purposefully. And it was time to go on and pursue my educational career. And in the process, I stopped to get a job, just over broke. And I got a job working as a doorman, or I applied for a job as a doorman. I figured that would be brainless and super easy for me. Immediately, I'm told I'm overqualified. I'm like, I'm begging them, please, I just want a job. I don't want any. And they said, well, we want you to be head of our security. And they introduced me to this large establishment. Next thing I know, I am the general manager and a business partner. I'm running 140 employees. We had 3 nightclubs and we're crushing it, absolutely crushing it. And the way we crushed it was, you mentioned ad revenue, or sales and ads. So we had one guy who was brilliant at making radio advertisements. Everything else was human being, and that was me. Training security staff, changing them the vernacular from bouncer to security staff, making them visible and training them to implode on problems as opposed to making it an issue, which reduced our lawsuits. It increased our winning lawsuits. But even better, the very next day, these guys that we tie into pretzels and would take out of the bar, they come back, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, hat in hand, and I'm there just opening things up, and they're like, hey, I'm looking for Mr. TC Cummings. That's me. Sir, my name is Joey Bag of Donuts, and you don't know me, but I was here last night, and oh, I remember you, Joey. Oh, oh, you do? Yeah, I got thrown out, and I mean, my girl left me. She took my truck, and my dog died, and I just had a real bad week, you know. And I'm like, I understand. Well, come on back whenever you're ready. Really? Yeah.
That's
And
fine. At
then
that point, you went from East Coast to West Coast because you were,
yes, yeah,
northern,
because
northeastern New York, and then San Diego, and now
y-
you're in California, right? So you
yeah,
kind of become a staple resident
yeah.
of
So
California at that point.
this was the Southwest. It was actually New Mexico.
Okay.
And from there, what I didn't do, and David, you can probably snicker at this one, I didn't do any homework on my business partners. And so they left us high and dry. They stole a lot of our money. And so I moved on, and
Did you put
I
any of them
didn't.
in a pretzel?
My people did, and that was really great. You know, it's like they were really unhappy with them, and they let them know. I guess I imagine that it's long enough ago. I mean, one vehicle may have been rolled over, you know, just by manual lift. Um, yeah, I had
So is
33
this the
working
leading of how you
security.
ended up helping CEOs, that either you tell them that they're going to do something, or you're going to put them in a pretzel? Is that how you get them to do it? Well, let's
Yeah,
talk
well,
about that. What is it that you have translated from your Navy SEAL training, and you're turning adversity into opportunity? How do you take that into a high-level CEO and improve their performance?
well, David, immediately when I took over this bar, it was the very beginning. We hadn't even started working yet, so I made mandatory personal development and professional development classes that I would lead, and I boldly brought in the ABC, the alcohol beverage control cops, to observe us. And as soon as they did, after the first time, they realized, wait, this is not a joke. This is good stuff. So they started coming back and bringing other cops as well as local businessmen. And then these local businessmen would bring in their CEO, and their CEO would come to me and say, could you talk to my people? And I'd talk to their people. And then the CEO would say, could we have lunch? And it's about mindset, and the very basic. And to go back to Jim Rohn, so I had gotten involved in self-development in the early 90s, around 1990, around 1991, and it just made sense. It's like everything totally makes sense. I've read and listened to Dennis Waitley, and I could totally see how I used everything that I'd learned from Dennis Waitley. I mean, now, that's not true. I could see that what Dennis Waitley is telling me was what I was doing. It just made total sense. And therefore I can do it on purpose, and I can ask questions. So I'd ask these questions of the CEOs, helping them. Here's one for you. And this is actually comes from the football world, is Vince Lombardi told us that a team cannot help but take on the philosophies of the leader. So when I look at a CEO, he or she can bullshit me all they want. But if I pay attention to their people, they'll tell me who the CEO really is. And just working with a CEO just today here in Chicago, I'm on a trip right now, and well, as you can tell, and the CEO is like, hey, you know what I discovered was that intellectually, I thought I was the nicest guy, and I'm open ears, but I want to win so much more than anybody else that I was willing to cut people off in order to assert myself. So I want to empower them, but I'm not giving them the opportunity because I want to win. So he had to pull back on his own reins and allow them to go forward, and allow them to do a less quality of a job than he would, but still good enough for government work. It still meets the threshold of tolerance. So it still is brand worthy, as I like to say. And with that, then he empowers them. They start to feel good about themselves for the first time ever. And the more they do, the more he can relax and see a bigger picture, and eventually even take vacations on those yachts that Jeff was mentioning, take a little time off for himself. So this, gosh, 1997, yeah, 1997, worked with two brothers, and these guys had just started an MLM nutritional business. And in their second year in business, they did $300 million in sales.
Wow.
So while I'm there, they were going through a 48% monthly growth compounded on the month prior. And that lasted for 12 months. And I was doing a blend of fitness coaching and executive coaching or life coaching, because I didn't know I was coaching. I forgot to mention that part. I thought I was sharing good ideas from my experience that resonate with them while being a good listener. That's what I thought I was doing. And turns out it's called coaching. So these guys, I would meet with them each 3 times a week, and we do fitness training with life coaching. And I would ask them questions to bring their awareness into an empowered state where they're in the driver's seat of their own life. And according to one of the brothers, he said that there's no way they could have survived the stresses, including 7 times being audited by the FDA in 1 year, 1 calendar year, 7 audits. They couldn't have handled the stresses of staffing, of sourcing product. It just.
Hey, TC, when we talk, TC, let's say we got a CEO on the phone that's doing 5 million in revenue. He's dropping 10% to the bottom line. So he or she's making 500 grand a year, and they have a goal to take their business to 50 million. Maybe they could drop 20% to the bottom line and make $10 million a year. Big jump in income. Now it's worth selling because you're talking about a 9-figure exit, enough money to fully retire and live off your investments, right? I think that's a lot of people's goals. What do you think, out of all the training, hundreds of businesses, CEOs going in there, what do you think the most important part is to go 10 times revenue and build a company like that? Grow My Profit has our 6 steps: sales, marketing, ops, leadership, planning, having a plan. But what do you see is the biggest, success factor in the companies that you've seen that have 10x revenue over a 5-year period of time or 10-year period of time?
So there's a number of factors, obviously. If I were to point at one, I'm biased, I would say it's the Noble Warrior training approach. So we haven't gotten to the Noble Warrior training approach. Bottom line is Noble Warrior training is about, well, the approach itself is about seeing yourself at cause in relationship to the law of cause and effect. That you are the doer, the actor, the implementer, that you're the one who's responsible. You have ownership. You are the initiator. It's not happening to you. It's you're doing it. Easier said than done, but having more and more and more of that mindset, it's an enriching and empowering mindset in relationship with yourself, first and foremost. Well, in relationship with your higher power, we'll put that first and foremost. Then relationship with yourself and relationship with your people that you lead and the people you serve. We always see this. A gazillion cases of a customer who's dissatisfied. If you take 100% ownership, that customer might be batshit crazy. They really might be. But if you take 100% ownership, you can include, we're never going to work with that particular customer again, or we're going to learn, because we're in the driver's seat, the telltale signs of someone who's batshit crazy, and we're not going to work with them again. And literally, I had a manager today ask me, yeah, but what if I really need to get the work done? Dude, the question is still, are they qualified or not? If
So it's
not,
kind of like,
then
I'm hearing
you're
you say, build the leadership team, right? The
build the
team.
leadership team, but it starts with you and your mindset that you're in the driver's seat. You're not causing their effect, but you're at cause and they are at cause. You're at cause to the relationship. So you want to build a leadership team, but you also want that team to build their people so that you have a great relationship with the lowest person on the totem pole, in the org chart. You know, the mailman, right? The mail deliver, the mail boy. There you go. They call it the mail boy, right? That person. Now we did this in the San Diego Zoo. Literally did exactly this over 5 years, and this is during the global economic recession in 2008. I started working with the director, and immediately the global recession hits, and he starts getting phone calls saying we're not going to have any money donated next year. But they were determined to get through without laying off a single person. So that meant we had to do things smarter. And I show up and I walk around, and if you've not been to the San Diego Zoo,
I've been.
it's gorgeous. It just the flora, just the plant life and the layout. It's worth it going just for that. But here I am walking through early morning, and I'm seeing guys that work there to sweep up the floors, and they're dragging butt. They're they're looking like despondent. I have to go to work today. My life sucks because I have to go to work. And I'm going, oh my God, you're in the world famous San Diego Zoo. It's this gorgeous. Like, I can't think of a more gorgeous place to work. And you're unhappy you have to be here. I get it, but there's no place for that here. So what I did was I invited people to look at things differently from the ground up. Look at what a blessing it is to work here. And it took us a while until the most influential department finally got it. When they got it, it was dramatic. I've mentioned they were influential. And they exuded their passion for being in the driver's seat of their own life, that autonomy that comes from being at cause. They exuded that into all their people, to the point where I'd walk through and there's somebody, sweeping up the floor, and the first thing he does is like, hey, isn't it a beautiful day? Hey, just doesn't know me from Adam, but man, just like, hi, brother, isn't it nice out? Like, what a gorgeous day. And it's overcast and it's chilly. And it's like, what a gorgeous day.
Yeah, sounds like maybe putting some gratitude into the employees, right? What are you
Not putting it
grateful
into, but drawing it out from.
It's funny, Dave, our cousins from Montana are coming down here next week for a first family vacation in California with their 4 kids, and their top destination was, we're going to San Diego Zoo. It's kind of funny,
Beautiful.
that's one of the things on the list. So
You
Absolutely.
see, I'm curious. My father-in-law, he's passed 5 or so more years ago, but he said that he went to um, a session where there was a Navy SEALs trainer there, and he was doing a Q&A, and somebody from the crowd asked the question, what is it that they train you in the Navy SEALs that causes you to be able to overcome any adversity, any setback? We were talking about when we were in the green room before we went live about, overcoming adversity and changes. And, entrepreneurs have to go through a lot of crap. The road to success as a business owner goes through the sewer, and you got to go through some crap before you end up being successful. And this particular person, and my father-in-law, I don't know what the accuracy of it is, but he said that his response was, in the Navy SEALs, we train the Navy SEALs to never quit. And the person asked the question, but what is it psychologically that you train them on? And he said, we train them to never quit and to never, whatever the phrase was, I may be paraphrasing, but is that transferable into the marketplace? I mean, obviously there's certain people that are willing to put up with a lot of stuff because they have a lot of motivation or they've got a mindset. based upon how they were brought up, and maybe this is a really important thing to them to succeed at, so they'll go through all that stuff. But is there anything that you could transfer to the business owners that are watching that say, if you're going through adversity, here's some things that I would train you to do?
So how do you not quit when you're going through adversity? In the Navy SEAL training of buds, we have a tactic which is called surf torture. What we do is we have the students lay down, interlock their arms in about 6 inches of water in the ocean. And the water, the waves will come up and cascade over the bodies and then recede. Fully dressed, that means that all the water is soaked into your clothes and your body heat will evaporate the water. And when you evaporate water, physics tells us that temperature drops. So the students, even though it's on the lovely beaches of San Diego, approach hypothermia. Now, we don't become hypothermic. That would be irresponsible. But we approach hypothermia. We start to get cold, even though, again, Southern California, how can you get cold? Because of physics. So we use surf torture to put these students through this process of discovering for themselves, do you really want to be here? Or do you want to quit? Now, there's a big culminating moment of surf torture. And again, by the way, surf torture, it'll go on and on and on until somebody starts to get close to hypothermia. Then all the students are brought out of the beach, put onto the soft sand, made to do calisthenics and races until they're hot and dry, and then they're sent right back into the water again. And that, for a lot of guys, that's a killer. They're like, no, I can't do it again. And they'll quit. But for most of us, we start to learn, those of us who graduate, we learn it's mind over matter. If you learn not to mind, then it doesn't matter. Specifically, when we're looking at this, about 2 o'clock in the morning during Hell Week on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, the students are really tired. And we're about almost halfway through this Hell Week where we are sleep deprived. The students are laying out in the surf zone, teeth chattering, doing their best to sing. Hands feel like clumps, can't feel their toes. And about then is when the bullfrog, the Master Chief of Naval Special Warfare Center, will come out. And he'll grab a hold of a megaphone. And he's not going to raise his voice. He'll just use a megaphone. And he'll say, listen up, ladies. This is a volunteer program. You don't have to be here. He really emphasizes you have the choice to quit. You don't have to be here. He says it again. And he'll say, in fact, I've got a warm ambulance with a dry blanket, smooth jazz playing. I even have, and he'll confirm with his instructors, and he'll say, I've got one donut left for the first quitter. This is a volunteer program. You don't have to be here. Now that transfers to all of life. You don't have to be here. And those guys that bolt out of the water to quit, within 2 minutes, 10 minutes, they're so depressed. Why did I do that? What's wrong with me?
That's great.
You're going to fall down. But the faster you get back up, you're going to develop that strength of perseverance and resiliency.
Yeah, my cold water experience in business was the first time you get sued for labor law, and you weren't guilty, and they didn't work overtime, and you knew that that you provided a comfortable chair and didn't hurt their back, and you're getting sued, and you're like, this is so wrong. It's like that cold water, and you got to get through the first one. And I think in 10 years, I think I had 10 like one per year would pop up, and not everybody has thick enough skin. They get real nervous. Oh, I'm getting sued. There's legal documents. Somebody served me. Oh God, you get scared and you get frustrated, and it just kind of takes the wind out of you. But if you understand that's just business, and I think 1 out of 10 times I was at fault. I did something wrong that I had to pay a fine for, and it was just like cost of doing business, getting thicker skin, going through that. Yeah, working really hard, revenue goes down, or salesperson, my top salesperson quit, started a company, stole all the customers, violated the non-compete. I mean, all that stuff is just cold water, man. And it's like going through it. To kind of wrap this up, I just want you to talk a little bit about if somebody wanted to sign up and do your noble training, a CEO or a sales leader, and bring you in, kind of just touch on 2 or 3 points of what that training entails and what they're going to get out of it, and maybe share your contact info as we wrap up about what somebody's going to get out of that, how to get a hold of you. We'll send it out to the group after this is done, but tell me the 2 or 3 things you're going to focus on that they're going to get out of that training, why they might want to put their leadership team through it.
Thanks, Jeff. Wow. If you want to go big, you can't get there from here, which is a blessing because it tells you got to change what you're doing. Chances are, first and foremost, inside of you, as Jim Rohn was famous for saying, in order for things to change, you must change. So chances are, it first and foremost starts with you, and then your leadership team, and from there it'll cascade out. That you may have the wrong people on the bus. You may have some people who are on the bus in the wrong seats. That will become evident very quickly when you raise your standards. The way I work with people, just leadership team, just leadership one-on-one, is weekly for about 50 minutes a week over the Zoom like we're sitting right now. In person is great. And here I am right now in Chicago. We working with a company. We just passed our 10-year anniversary. They continue to do great and great and great. And I'm working with a CEO. He doesn't own the company, but he keeps investing in the company through me because of the benefits that the company keeps getting. What else? Getting the team together. That's why I'm here right now. Is
Do you do one-on-ones with
shaking
the,
up the
do you do
whole.
one-on-ones with the CEO? Do you do coaching like to fix him or her first and then meet with the team? Is that common where you're just coaching the CEO? Because it seems like you were coaching teams, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got my C-suite
No, it's
team with
both.
me. And so
It's
you do
both
it both ways, depending. You might
simultaneously.
start with a couple meetings with the CEO and go, hey, here's what you're going to have
CEOs
to.
aren't broken. People aren't not at that level. They're not broken. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be refined. And
Right.
oftentimes they're pushing the rope or they're pulling the push door, right? They just need a new way of looking at things. And straightforward, a lot of them need more humility. So my job is to pull the humility out of them so they can capitalize on the constructive side of ego. From the perspective of noble warrior training, the destructive side of ego is what is in between you and all these relationships, including relationship with yourself. So identifying that enemy, knowing the strategies to approach and specific tactics to apply, but everybody's an individual, everybody's unique. So what works for this person doesn't necessarily work for this person. We filter it out, we try it out, we test the waters. It's all about authenticity. And then with that, they become really attractive and they start attracting the right people and they start to repel the wrong people. And they got no problem saying, hey, Giuseppe, it's been great, but it's time for you to go.
Good deal.
And it's actually in Giuseppe's best interest. So if anybody wants to, find me, they can go to tccummings.com, tccummings.com. Or you can send an email to info@tccummings.com. As a matter of fact, I think I've got an out to lunch sign on my website right now as we're revamping it. And I've got a 5-part mini course on Noble Warrior training that I give away for free. So those who want to subscribe, they can just get the audio program of that.
Very cool. Well, I'd love to see Jeff kind of take that beach torture plan, because I think we need to see a good visual of that, and see if he can hold out, see if he can make it happen. What do you think, Jeff? You up for that?
Hey, I don't even surf in wintertime anymore. I wait till I just looked at the water temp. It's 64. I'm like, nah, 68's kind of the limit with no wetsuit. You know, I
Yeah.
hate putting wetsuits on and
Me
surfing. I
too.
take the winters off. I'm more of a, summertime, surfer, so not a real one. So I'm looking forward to the end of May and the water hits 68. So or another Hawaii trip. Then you can surf all year. So
And
yeah.
Jeff just passed his concealed carry, so I'd like to see him go up against UTC with an unloaded weapon, see if he can end up taking you down.
Yeah, plastic, yeah, unloaded, like not even real.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well,
I
thanks for
trained with it was funny, I had 6 guys in my class, the CCW, class, and one of them was a Navy SEAL, and they said, hey, we want you to put 6 rounds in the head. And I look over, and this Navy SEAL dude, he got 3 to the right eyeball and 3 to the left. I'm like, holy crap, that guy's been practiced it. He was good, man. But it's funny that a Navy SEAL would have to take the same class as me just to get a concealed carry in California in Riverside County. And it was kind of cool. I had a Army Ranger and a Navy SEAL, and these guys were really good, and anyways, it was fun. So I'll talk to you about
I'm
that
just
later.
grateful. Please do. But I'm just grateful that we're allowed to carry in concealed, because it's so hard to do here in California. I'm not in California right now, but
Yeah.
I mean, just
Probably
again,
even
take
harder
a
in
wing.
Chicago.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Well, we
Cool.
have
It's
so
good
many
seeing
other
you today, man.
so many other good questions for you, and just want to say thank you for your service, and we're so appreciative of the work that you're doing out there in the marketplace. And not every Navy SEAL comes back and enters into civilian life in the way that you've done it, and it's very noble of you to be able to take those strategies and tactics and skills and teach them back to business owners and business executives. So thanks for all you do, TC, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks to you and the audience for letting me share
You bet.
with you.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care,
TC.
guys.
We'll see you guys.
All the best.